Here at WNZK AM 690 radio, broadcasting live in Detroit. And it is our first show of the new year. I do shows every second Tuesday. Ended my seasonal show at Arab News, and but that'll start up later on in the year. But for now, every second Friday, I'll be here at WNZK AM 690 Radio Ballady live on Layla El Husseini's radio network. We got a great guest this morning, Steve Sosebee. Steve is the founder who previously led the Palestine Children's Relief Fund, PCRF. I know you've heard of it, beginning in 1991 until he left in 2024. Big loss for the Palestine Children's Relief Fund, but not a big loss for Palestinian kids because he went right out and co-founded with a group of great people, HEAL Palestine, HEAL Palestine. You can go to their website and check out all the stuff that they do. And that was launched on January 1st, 2024. For over 3 decades, Steve has led humanitarian efforts on the ground in Palestine, beginning with arranging free medical care in 1990 for the first injured children from Palestine in the U.S. and organizing the first volunteer medical missions to Gaza in 1995. Through his long service to Palestine and his role in building and leading two impactful nonprofit organizations, he brings decades of nonprofit experience to HEAL Palestine's board. And I'm so excited that he's continuing to do what he's done very well. Steve, welcome to the program this morning.
Oh, thanks for having me, Ray. I'm happy to be here.
I have to mention to everybody that I met Steve through Nimer Ziad, who passed away this past September on his 61st birthday. It was the most tragic day of my life. Nimer was an inspiration in the Palestinian and the Arab and in the American community, a great businessman, and he always spoke so highly of Steve and the work that he was doing to help Palestinian children. So it's kind of a little mournful to have you on, Steve, because it just reminds me of this great loss that we have in the Palestinian and Arab American community.
Yeah, Nimr was a great man and a great supporter, a very nationalist Palestinian, and I had many really insightful conversations with him. And it is a great loss, and may God rest his soul. And too soon, for sure.
Yeah, it's terrible. Now, Steve, I know you're on a tight schedule, and I got to tell you, I really appreciate you coming here to talk on radio. So we'll go right through this for as long as you possibly can, and then we'll
Sure.
take our first break later on, and maybe take some calls at 248-557-3300. First of all, Steve, tell us you're not are you Palestinian? Are Arab, Muslim? What's your background?
I'm a from Northeast Ohio. I was born into a basically middle class American family. My father was a high school teacher. My mom was a nurse, and was just raised with the belief in social justice. My parents were very active politically when I was growing up in the 70s and 60s, and kind of instilled in me that belief very strongly that we have a responsibility to support and serve causes of justice, and particularly those where people are being oppressed by your own government or your own structures of inequality that exist, particularly in this country. So I do not have any particular strong ethnic or any blood ties to Palestine, but I do obviously recognize my responsibility as an American to this cause, and I also recognize my responsibility as a human being. I mean, regardless of what your background is, I think Palestine is an issue that every human being it should resonate with each of us in the sense that what's happening there is just a violation of basic human rights. It's not a violation of Palestinian rights. It's a violation of human rights. And since then, I married a Palestinian, was for 17 years very happily married, and she passed away in 2009. God rest her soul.
Yeah.
And I have a Palestinian passport. My children are Palestinian and speak Arabic. And I lived, 3 decades on and off in Palestine for the most of my adult life. I've lived in Palestine, so I have very strong ties there, but nothing by birth.
You're one of the greatest assets to the Palestinian community. There are a lot of good people who do a lot of good stuff, but honestly, what you do has been impactful, and it's made a difference in the lives of so many children and families and Palestinians, and it's a role model for other groups to do the same thing. Let's get right into Gaza, and tell us, what are you doing? I mean, I know what it is, but explain to the audience, what does Heal Palestine do, and how many kids have you been helping?
Yeah, so Heal Palestine, we set it up a year ago with the intention of addressing um, a wide variety of needs. So HEAL, HEAL stands for Health, Education, Aid, and Leadership. And in each of those areas, we have significant programs on the ground in Gaza. In health, obviously, we're bringing injured children here. That's something I started back in 1990. Before I started PCRF, I was bringing injured children to the US, and decided to start PCRF to facilitate that, and brought over 2,000 children since then. And since HEAL started, we have brought 30 injured kids from Gaza and one from the West Bank to the US to get medical care for free. And we have them all over the country, including four in Chicago, three in Houston, and so on and so forth, and work with our communities. I believe very strongly in working on a grassroots level with the Palestinian community, the Arab community, and people who stand in solidarity with the Palestinian struggle, like myself. There's a significant role we have to play. So in the health, we're bringing injured kids out. We're running a field hospital on the ground in Gaza that treats thousands of people a week. We do a mental health program in Gaza and for displaced children in Egypt. We also are sending medical teams in not only to Gaza, but to the West Bank, where we're also building up health services in the public sector. And that's health and education. We're opening schools. We're sponsoring students. We're running a program for displaced children in Egypt. In Gaza, we have a school for over 100 children, school children. And we are expanding those programs in 2025 with taking on larger projects in education, and have this is just the beginning. This is something I couldn't do with my previous organization, was expand into areas where I feel there's a great need and also a great opportunity to have an impact. Education is certainly one that, when we look to the future of how we're going to rebuild the lives of Gaza's children, which have been destroyed and shattered, education is really the key. They have to compete globally. And the Palestinian people are, as you know, Ray, among the most educated people in the world, and certainly in the Middle East, and among diaspora populations, the Palestinians excel everywhere they go. So education is a key part of the Palestinian struggle, the Palestinian resistance, and it's our duty as those who believe in the Palestinian struggle to help enhance and support anything that can give educational opportunities, particularly to Gaza's youth. In aid, the A in HEAL stands for aid, and we're doing a wide variety of aid programs on the ground in Gaza. Gaza, we run two kitchens, which feed thousands of people daily, one in Deir al-Balah, one in Mawasi, Han Yunis. We have a team in northern Gaza. We're one of the few organizations active on the ground there that is distributing on a daily basis food, clothing, medication, shelter. We just purchased 6,000 tents and are bringing them into Gaza in the next month or so. That was over $1 million. We're hoping to build small communities there that we can structure services around. So if we bring these tents in, we're hoping to put together communities where we can provide education and health services based on where people are living, and being able to house people who currently do not have adequate housing or shelter. Excuse me, it's not housing. Also in aid, we're doing some social psychological support. We do fun camps for children who are displaced. And in the southern part of Gaza, we're constantly bringing in, or trying to bring in, shipments of aid that go in addition to the ongoing distribution of food through our kitchens. We're also bringing in, we've done milk formula for our hospitals, medications, and so on. And then in leadership, the final part of HEAL, the L part, is really something that will come in the post-genocidal phase, which is connecting our communities all over the world with the needs of individual children in Gaza, because our goal is really to not allow this generation to just become beggars and just become dependent on NGOs or governments or charitable contributions to survive. We feel that these children already have endured enough injustice and crimes committed against them, destroying their lives, their homes, their families, their bodies, their society. And for a future in Gaza, for a future for the Palestinians, we believe the community abroad, people like yourself, Ray, and millions of educated Palestinians and Arabs all over the world can help rebuild the lives of these kids, can help give them opportunities to mentor them, to open doors for them, to give them opportunities to become independent and self-sufficient. The last thing we want is a whole generation of Gaza youth to be just waiting for the next shipment of food to feed them for the rest of their lives. That is a program that is we're currently building the infrastructure for, but will only be implemented when the genocide is over. And unfortunately, we do not see any sign that that's going to happen anytime soon.
So, so
That's what,
explain to yeah, no, 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 that's phenomenal what you do, it's just amazing to me. I remember when Niemer first introduced me to the your prior organization that you built and you put
yeah.
together and made successful. He told me about all the great things that you were doing, and that we should do whatever we could to help you. And he was so excited that you were continuing with the work by moving to HEAL
Yeah.
Palestine, this new organization. Tell us take one child, for example, and walk us through what happens. I mean, it sounds easy, but I bet it isn't. What do
No,
you do with the kids? Take us through
it's
one kid.
that's a great question, Ray, because we take a very holistic approach to every one of the children that we bring out for treatment, meaning that not only are we bringing them for medical care that they can't get because the health sector in Gaza has been destroyed, but also focus on their educations. We focus on their mental health. And we also work with our communities in places like Chicago, Houston, Dallas, New York, Boston, Philadelphia, wherever we have kids placed, we ask our community to step up. And just on a side note, not necessarily answering your specific question here, I'll get to that in a moment. But on a
Sure.
side note, one of the reasons HEAL was set up, and one of the reasons I believe strongly, I moved on to do something that I thought could be more impactful and had a wider scope. And it's one of many reasons I left PCRF. And one of the most important things is that we want our communities to be involved more actively in healing the lives of these kids because all of our communities abroad, outside of Palestine, are traumatized. Yourself, myself, everybody who watches a genocide live streamed every single day, the carnage, the cruelty, the injustice, the suffering of children and of people in Gaza feel this very deep, deep, soulful loss, depression, pain that we're all looking for ways that we can help. So what we want to do is bring kids to the communities and then engage our communities to give them opportunities to be part of the healing process of these children because it heals our communities as well. It keeps our Palestinian communities motivated and focused and not feeling this element of despair and hopelessness, which then will result in the struggle being weakened. This is a very important and critical time for the Palestinian population all over the world to remain focused and to remain steadfast and to not give up their dedication. And I'm not saying Palestinians have ever given up, but there's this element of despair and depression, feeling of hopelessness that we
Yeah.
can't let come into the struggle. So part of our focus is bringing kids here and getting our communities engaged. So that's part of one of the important things of HEAL. Now, you asked me a question about what it means for kids to come here, and I'll take a specific child for example. Let's talk about a boy that we have currently in Houston. His name is Muhammad. He lost both legs, he lost a hand, and he lost most of the other hands. So he's a quadruple amputee. He's 15 years old. What does his future look like? He doesn't have legs. He's missing both of his hands for the most part. He has two remaining fingers.
Yikes.
Psychologically, when we first found him injured in Gaza, our field worker on the ground there brought the case to the organization, met with the family, asked them if they wanted us to sponsor his treatment outside. They said yes. So we started the long process of finding him treatment in a facility that would accept him in the US. Once we got that facility to give us a letter of acceptance, we then put his name on an evacuation list. He was moved to Egypt. This is before the Egyptian border was closed. And then we then started the preparation of getting him a passport, getting him a visa, and preparing him psychologically. So our global healing team met with his family. We explained what the process was. We cleared their expectations of what kind of medical care he was going to get. His mother was coming with him. Our psychiatrist in Egypt met with him several times, did evaluation of what his post-traumatic stress situation was like. So we're prepared for when he comes here to continue that kind of treatment. And we also evaluate our kids educationally. What is their level of what's their academic level? So when they come, we can put them into a continuation of school. So we wanted to know, is he able to read or write? Well, in this case, this boy's academic level is very, very low because the schools in Gaza, even before October 7th, before the education system was destroyed, were already underfunded and overstressed. They were working in shifts. Kids would go to school in Gaza from 8 in the morning till noon, and then they would go home, and then another shift of students would come in from noon to 4. Imagine how impactful that is on a child's development educationally. Despite that, the kids in Gaza can all read and write, and at least before October 7th, the education level among literacy level in Gaza is very high, as you know. So that we brought him, and then we before he came, we encouraged the community to come out and greet him at the airport. We had hundreds of people in Houston at the airport carrying Palestinian flags, having signs that said welcome, bringing him gifts. So when he arrived, he felt that warm, loving support from the community. And as I said before, it also gave the community their first chance to start feeling something positive, seeing something. Hey, here's an injured child coming from Gaza. We're going to help heal him. We're going to help get him healthy again so he can walk and be whole. And then as has been here for the past several months, we've continued to take him to events, take him out to the mosque to pray if if his family's religious, take him to community events, and of course, in that process, he's starting to walk again. The hospital's built him new legs; they're building him a hand. He's going through education. He's starting to learn things he didn't learn before. He's starting to read better. He's starting to understand a higher level of education that will help him in his future and continue his mental health therapy and support. So he doesn't have this huge burden of trauma, and he can develop skills for coping with anxiety and depression and all of those things that would come with anybody who's gone through a genocide, let alone a child who's endured the loss of 4 limbs.
And,
That's one example. Multiply that by 30, and that's the way we
wow.
operate.
And when did you bring him in, for example? About what time?
That was in
What
the
period?
summer. It was June.
In June. And
Mhm.
then was it hard to find a family? Does he come with his parents or
Came with his
relatives?
mother. The Israelis
Okay.
are not allowing fathers to leave Gaza for the
Oh,
most part.
horrible.
So yeah, so he came with his mother. A lot of time, we have plenty of kids here whose families have been killed. So we have a girl in Houston whose entire family, 4 sisters, both parents and a brother, were killed in the bombing. We have 2 boys in Boston whose entire family were killed. They're here with their grandmother. The girl in Houston is here with her last remaining surviving sister and her aunt. We have, I would say, a significant number of children have had one parent killed, usually the father, but in many times the mothers as well. We're working on a boy coming to Detroit whose parents have been killed, who's an orphan,
A-
and trying to find somebody. The first person that we got, he's just 12 years old. The first person we got, we submitted the name of his aunt to come, and she was rejected. So we had to find somebody else from the family to submit to come with him because they won't allow them to come by themselves, of course.
And Steve, I know that you're on a tight deadline. Just give me an idea of how much more time you could do,
Uh,
so
uh,
I could just kind of focus this.
yeah, 10 more minutes is good.
Okay. Instead of taking a break, I'm just going to continue the interview, and we'll catch up with the breaks after we're done. So,
Sounds good.
what's it like now? Obviously, you've been to Gaza to meet with some of these people. Are you able to get there, or have they put you on a list where they block you?
So I first went to Gaza in 1988 during the first Intifada, my first trip to Palestine, and it changed my life. The experience of meeting the people there. At that time there was a curfew every single night. The entire population of Gaza had to be off the streets by 6 p.m. or it was a shoot on site curfew, and that went on for years in Gaza. I have since gone back hundreds of times. I was so comfortable going to Gaza. My last trip there, I rented a car and drove from north to south by myself. I know all of Gaza very well geographically and also have friends from the north and south over the years of working there. But since I received my Palestinian ID 4 years ago, the Israelis have made me take one because when my wife died, my wife, who was a West Bank Palestinian, my children had Palestinian IDs, but I did not. I'm an
Right.
American, of course. I was living in the West Bank on a tourist visa. My children were living there as Palestinians. And eventually the Israelis tried to prevent me from coming back. Although my children lived there, I took it to the court. Finally, they imposed on me to take a Palestinian ID. So I now carry a Palestinian passport and Hawiya, as we call it,
Right.
when living in the West Bank. So I live as a Palestinian there. and therefore no Palestinians from the West Bank are permitted to go into Gaza. No Palestinians with Palestinian IDs at all are
Right.
permitted to go to Gaza. So I have not been able to get a permit because of that reason. But I
Yikes.
want nothing more to go there and to continue to help and work on the ground there. It's
Yeah.
every day.
I,
It's a dream of mine.
my first trip to Palestine was during the first Intifada when I was a reporter with the Chicago Sun-Times. The newspaper was upset that I was going to go there, even though I was the only Palestinian journalist working at a major newspaper in the U.S. at the time. And I remember I went there and they were going to block me until they found out they'd stripped me down and they were ripping apart my wallet and they discovered this ID for the Chicago Sun-Times. And they completely reversed themselves and allowed me to go there for 2 weeks. But it was the most brutal situation I'd ever experienced. I was allowed to go to Gaza because obviously I didn't have a Palestinian passport. But the oppression goes back 30, 40, 50 years just in the West Bank. It didn't just start on October 7th, as many people feel. How do you pick? I mean, with the thousands and thousands of children who are seriously injured and maimed by the Israeli military. They're targeting these families. They're targeting civilians. They're targeting
Yes.
women and children. How do you pick a family to bring them to the U.S., for example, to help them? And do you just do the U.S. or do you do other countries too?
Well, right now we're focusing mainly on the United States because we have such strong ties to the Palestinian community. And as I said before, a lot of organizations, including my previous one, are basically facilitating kids going to other countries and then letting the governments treat them, which is fine. Kids need treatment, whatever it takes to get them the care that they need. But I mentioned earlier, we're taking a holistic approach. We don't want to just treat them physically, which is the most important reason they're coming, but we want to take responsibility for their education, for their mental health, for rebuilding their lives and giving them a brighter future. So to do that, we work with our Palestinian community, and that's in the United States is really the most active and I would say most involved when it comes to this kind of work.
Right.
You won't find the same kind of community in Germany, although they're very active there. And I'm not trying to disparage the German Palestinian community, but to house children there and to take care of them, we don't have that connection or that infrastructure in a place like Germany or France or European countries that may have those hospitals. In addition to that, it's important to remember that American hospitals on a private level, because they're all private within the private health sector, it's easy for them to accept a patient. But in a country where the health system is nationalized, which is maybe more beneficial for the general population there, it's much more bureaucratic to get the government to accept a child to be treated in a government hospital. So that's one of the main reasons we bring them here. But we are in talks with some other countries to send kids there, as long as we can ensure that we're involved in their care and that it includes the other aspects of their care while they're undergoing treatment. We're not sending them there just to stay in a hotel and get
Right.
treatment. And then we want to be involved in rebuilding their lives and giving them that sense of connection. Now, the question, how do we choose? Because as you mentioned, there's thousands. There's an
Yeah.
estimate that there's 10,000 injured children who need medical care outside of Gaza right now. The list it never ends, and the need is beyond the scope of any organization to adequately treat. What we're doing is whenever a child comes into our organization and we feel that we can adequately treat them, and let's remember, these aren't just injured kids who need medical care. They're kids born with heart problems. They're kids with cancer. There are kids who've had accidents. There's kids who've acquired diseases because the water is infected, because polio came back, because there's all of these issues that have emerged that aren't just the fact that the Israelis are bombing people every day by the hundreds. It's also kids who have just common medical ailments that in any normal country or even in Gaza before October 7th could be adequately treated within the health sector. They now need to travel outside for treatment because the health sector has been destroyed. So with that in mind, there's over 10,000 children who need medical care outside of Gaza. So what we do is whenever a case comes to us, it goes to our health advisory board. We have dozens of volunteer doctors who've all been to Gaza, who are top-notch physicians at their hospitals all over the world who review the files and then guide us on what the next steps are. If we can treat them, then we try to find them the care. If they cannot be treated, then obviously we try to find other help for them. Do they need food? Do they need shelter? Is there something we can do for their family in Gaza? We never say no to
It,
anybody. And that's another reason why, I've started Heal Palestine and left the other organization. I don't want to say no to anybody. Like if we
yeah.
can't help them, with what they directly need, then we'll find other ways to support them is to the best of our ability. Because the last thing we want to do is go have somebody who needs something and you tell them, sorry, go somewhere else. You just say,
Right.
I can't help you with that, but what else can I do for you? That's the
Does
message we give to people.
do you feel? I mean, it's got to be a terrible feeling to go there and see so much need, and only. And I'm not criticizing you, obviously. I mean, but only being able to help 30 kids. It sounds like a lot under normal circumstances, but we're talking about a genocide by the Israelis where they're targeting civilians and
Yeah.
targeting and killing families. It has to be painful to realize that you can only do a small, to help a small part of that population. What is it like? I mean, from the people that you work with, we've heard these numbers that there've been 40,000 Palestinians killed. I just don't believe that number. It just seems impossible given what's happened there. It has to be 10 or 20 times larger. It's just
It
horrific.
It is. And as I mentioned before, you have to not only count the numbers of people who are dying because their homes are being bombed or Israeli snipers are shooting them, but also the people who are dying because they don't have access to medical care, because the
Right.
Israelis have intentionally destroyed the health system.
Right.
They also should be factored in. And the Lancet, one of the most prestigious medical journals in the world, recently published that what they estimated the number of deaths to be, and this was a few months ago, up to be 180,000. And now
Wow.
that number is much higher because that article came out a few months ago. And they've estimated that 250,000 of Palestinians would have died in the first year of the genocide, which seems reasonable when you factor in all of these aspects, not only the trauma deaths, but those who are dying from the lack of medication, from the acquired diseases that have come up, from the inability to access even basic medications because the supplies have been cut off by the Israelis. So those are all factors that come in as well. But I think the important message here is that the scale of this genocide, part of it is to make you feel like you have no role in helping. And you
Right.
can say, yes, we only have 30 kids here, and that's true. There's 30,000 who need help. But it's what we want to do is help whoever we can as much as we can,
Right.
and to continue to show the world that there are ways to, first of all, that we're united and we're not forgetting our brothers and sisters on the ground there, especially our children. And we're not going to stand idle during a genocide. If we can take one child or 10 children or 30 children and get them treatment outside, or 50 or 100, we're going to do it. And that's going to show the world that we stand united and we're not going to give up. Secondly, it keeps our communities engaged. And third, most importantly, is it gets these kids a better future and a better
Right.
chance at life. And it also educates Americans. When these kids are in the community, they're in the media, they show the world what's happening. People see for the first time a 10-year-old boy without legs from Gaza, and they start to question, well, how did this happen? I'm a human being. How would something like this go on? And then they start realizing that what's happening there on the ground, and it changes their perspective, and hopefully eventually will change the policy of this government towards the Palestinian people and stop sending bombs there to kill them.
Have you experienced any resistance from the U.S. government to kind of prevent you from doing this humanitarian health work that you're doing, saving
No.
lives? And again, I certainly want to emphasize that I'm not criticizing the fact 30 is amazing.
No, it's
30
fine.
kids.
I wish I could. I'm in total agreement with you, Ray. 30 is nothing compared to the scale, but
Yeah.
it's what we can do now, and we hope to do
Yes.
more in the future. Um, and again, that's just one part of the many things we're doing. We treat thousands of people a week in our field hospital in Gaza, so we're doing what we can. But no, I've not faced any problems from the U.S. government. Look, the U.S. government issues at the top level. It's a policy issue. It's at the executive level, it's at the congressional level. When you deal with bureaucrats in the State Department or at the embassies, they know what's going on. They're human
Right.
beings. They're not
Right.
setting the policy. They went
Right.
into government work. They went into to serve their country because they believe in the concept of freedom. They believe in the concept of democracy, and they see what's happening there as human beings as unjust. So we get nothing but support from that level of people. We've not had any problem getting visas for our kids. In fact, they help support that. We've not had any problem getting the State Department to put our kids on the evacuation list and try to help get them out. So at that level, where you're dealing with human beings and not with just policy, you find a very receptive support. It's when you get to the policy level, it's Blinken who's the problem. It's not the people under him so much.
Right.
When you
Right.
start going down to the mid-level bureaucrats at the State Department or people
Right.
at the, in that level, they're all see what's
Personally,
happening and they're
I'm
all
I'm happy
horrified
to
by it.
see Blinken leaving office, because he has
Yeah.
been terrible on many levels, and I've heard it from State Department employees under him that they've been so disappointed in him. Just a couple quick questions, Steve. I know you got to go. How many children do you think need help there, and how can people who hear this program help you help more kids?
Yeah, I missed the first question you asked, but the second
How
one,
many kids do you
oh,
think are need help there? I
oh,
mean,
it's already over 10,000 who need to come out for medical care, but actually
wow.
every single child needs help there. There's
Right.
over 1 million children in Gaza. Every one of them is traumatized. Every one of them has lost family members. Every one of them have had their homes destroyed, have been living in tents for weeks and for months. Every one of them is suffering every day from the lack of adequate nutrition, from the lack of education. So when you talk about how this genocide has affected children in Gaza, it's affected every single one of them. But for those who need medical care outside, the estimate is over 10,000. And then the question is, so I mean, the scale is just immense, and that's why we have to keep working. We can't give up, and we have to keep going. Even if there's a ceasefire tomorrow, we keep going. We don't stop.
Right.
And then the second issue here is how can people reach out and support?
Yes.
We have a website, healpalestine.org. You can also follow us on social media. Reach out to us if you want to get involved, if you want to be part of the work that we're doing, and we encourage everybody who wants to do something good and feel the ability to have that impact even in the life of one child or the mother who comes with him or the siblings who come with that child. You want to be involved, you want to take them out, you want to help tutor them, you want to visit them, you want to support them in any way. Reach out to us through our website, healpalestine.org, and we'll be more than happy to bring you in. We work with people. We have so many supporters who are Jewish, who are Muslim, who are Christian, who are Buddhist, who are Hindu. We don't care what
Right.
your religion is, what your background is. If you come in with a heart that wants to help others and to serve these noble people going through this historical injustice, Heal Palestine is the organization for you.
And you get a lot of help from the Jewish community here in the U.S.
I mean, I don't say a lot, but certainly I think this genocide has shown that there is a very significant segment of Jewish Americans who are outraged again about what's happening there.
Got it.
And you see it through Jewish Voices for Peace and If Not My Name. These are very important organizations which are doing incredible work and deserve much respect for their courage and for their voice. And we consider them allies. And if they want to support and step up with Heal Palestine, we welcome anybody. It's not a political initiative. It's one that is here to serve the Palestinian people on a human level, and to do all we can to respond to this genocide in a way that's going to heal and rebuild the lives of our kids, regardless of what one's religion or background is. There's a place for them in our organization.
Steve, you've been doing incredible work for the past 31 years that I know of, and it's just so good to see you continue to do this because you understand this better than anybody that I've met. I wish you a lot of luck. I hope a lot of listeners and viewers on Facebook and listeners on the radio, will dig deep into their pockets and do what they can to help you so we can get that number up from 30 to 10,000, because it's just overwhelming what we see over there. But Steve Sosebee, my guest with Heal Palestine, and you can find them on the internet. I think it's healpalestine.com,
No, it's healpalestine.org.
healpalestine.org,
Hmm.
HEAL Palestine.org. Steve,
Correct.
thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me on, Ray. I appreciate it.
All right, we'll talk again. Thank you.
Bye-bye. Bye.
And I want to thank the studio for taking a break on the ads. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we can go to the phones at 248-557-3300 if you want to call in and talk about anything: Syria, Palestine, Israel, the terrible things that they're doing to all these different countries, Lebanon, Syria, um, Palestine. It's just like they've gone nuts. And you think it's going to get better or worse under President Trump? I'm Ray Hanania. This is WNZK AM 690 radio on the dial. We're broadcasting on the U.S. Arab Radio Facebook page and live on radio in Detroit. We're going to take a break, and we'll be right back right after these messages.
ArabNews.com, bringing you breaking news from across the Middle East and the latest on Arabs in America. Get inside the latest headlines with expert analysis and insights at ArabNews.com. Join over 5 million Facebook fans and over 10 million monthly readers. ArabNews.com. News that matters to you.
Behind the scenes, Michigan's public health team is working to make Michiganders across the state healthier, bringing healthcare closer to home with mobile clinics, increasing access to healthy food through farmers markets and WIC, doing hearing and vision screenings in schools, helping families navigate healthcare challenges. Learn more about how public health workers protect us all at michigan.gov/public health. A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services.
Life for Relief and Development has now been rated as one of the best charities for humanitarian aid. Life's humanitarian projects span the globe, and Life is celebrating its 30th anniversary of providing essential life-saving aid to people and communities in 36 countries, regardless of race, color, religion, or cultural background. Where there is life, there is hope. And when disaster occurs here or around the world, including being one of the first responders to the Turkey-Syria earthquake crisis, Life for Relief and Development rushes in to provide food, medical aid, and shelter to those in need. We are looking to help the earthquake victims, and we take 0% overhead on emergency donations. So please help improve these efforts. Learn more about our involvement to help the helpless and bring hope where it's needed most, and make your tax-deductible donation to Life for Relief and Development now at lifeusa.org or call 248-424-7493. That's 248-424-7493.
Michigan's winter forecast is snow, snow, and more snow. And for a little variety, ice. Since that means slippery roads, stay safe by following these driving tips. Don't use cruise control on ice and snow. Use turn signals sooner to give others more time to react. Keep your car's fluids, tires, and wipers well maintained. And most important of all, drive slow on ice and snow. A message from the Michigan Office of Highway Safety Planning.
As the weather gets colder, it's a good idea to layer up with scarves, hats, and mittens. Another layer of protection this season is to get your flu and COVID-19 vaccines. You can get both vaccines at the same time. Talk to your healthcare provider or learn more at michigan.gov/COVID-flu-RSV and layer up for some added peace of mind. A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services.
And welcome back to Radio Validity here at WNZK AM 690, January 10, 2025. I'm Ray Hanania. And, I had to get a new computer. My other computer crashed, so I was having little problems connecting on Facebook and all that. But we will upload the completed video that we record to Facebook so we can share it. And for those of you who are able to see the show, the background that I have is a stamp. I have this huge stamp and coin collection. I've been collecting since I was like 7 years old. And this stamp is from 1946, I think. It's called Palestine for the Arabs. It was a 1 cent stamp that they were distributing in Palestine. It's so rare. It's beautiful. So I'm using that as a background for this interview with our guest, Steve Sosebee. Mike, if we have Jerry or anybody on the phone lines, let's bring them on and thank them for their patience. So I think we have Jerry. Hey, Jerry.
Sure.
Welcome to the show,
Mr.
buddy.
Hanania, and Happy New Year to you, Mr.
You too,
Ray.
buddy.
And thank you for everything you are doing through the Arab radio talk show and the other network. And thanks to the founder, Ms. Layla Al-Husseini.
She's phenomenal. She does so much, and her and the people she works with, like Mike Chipka, the producer, and Ayman, who helps her, they do a great job there.
Mike doing good job, and you are doing wonderful job, Mr. Ray. And I want to thank Mr. Steve earlier, your guest, for all the service he's doing towards the Palestinian people who they need help. So God bless him, and God bless you too. Mr. Ray Hanania, 76 years ago, there was a state called Palestine. But after 76 years, I don't think this state exists. What happened, happened, but all we need right now is peace and the solution of this two-state solution. I mean, I don't know if you agree with me with a two-state solution.
Yes. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
That is my dream to see that, Mr. Ray.
Me too.
Mr. Ray, the question I was trying to ask Mr. Steve, but I know he didn't have no time. What I tried to say that the American people does not know a lot about group of Arab people. They call them Palestinians. And my question here, Mr. Ray, where do you think the Palestinian people stand in as of today? And the second part is the Arab American media doing enough to send a true message to the American people who is the Palestinian people and what is their cause? And, to send a message to them. And so I would love to see, Mr. Ray, what do you say about this, especially the local Arab media in America? I know you are doing a wonderful job, Mr. Ray, to send your message. You've been there more than half a decade serving the Arab American, Middle Eastern, from Chicago.
Half a century. 50 years.
Half a century. Yeah, Mr. Ray. So
long.
Just would love to see, Mr. Ray, where is the Palestinian people standing today?
Well, listen, I think that's an important question. I think that we have a good Arab American media, but they don't get any support because the Arabs are the least respectful of their own community. They have no respect for themselves. They talk about it, but they don't support themselves. They don't believe in themselves. Most of them came here because they were oppressed. They're victimized by the Arab world from the tyrants that we had to deal with many decades before. So they come here with an attitude of wanting to survive. So they have to fight and they struggle. And because they're not recognized in this country, they struggle among themselves. It's easier to beat up for an Arab, to beat up on another Arab, than it is to fight the American system. So you tend to see a lot of Arabs fighting with each other. Instead of progressing and building things, they destroy each other. It's a part of our culture of American Arab culture, not Arab culture, but American Arab culture. We're disrespectful to ourselves. We don't support our media. Layla sets up a radio station, and instead of supporting her, other Arab Americans think, why is she doing it? She's a woman, or she's a Muslim, or maybe they think she's Christian or even Jewish. And they'll come up with every excuse to start their own radio station, not to get the word out, to educate people, but to stop her. And that's what motivates a lot of our community. I give Steve Sosebee a lot of credit. He fought for 30 years to bring relief and support to Palestinian children. And he did a great job. The Palestine Children Relief Fund, under his leadership, was so effective. And the fact that he left and started a new organization, I've completely walked away from PCRF. I support HEAL Palestine. I think that's where the emphasis is. The other group, I'm just not sure. Are they still helping Palestinians, or is it about ego and, personalities? It's a horrible experience that we go through.
Exactly. Mr. Ray, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but that reminds me, Mr. Ray, we do have some Arab American politicians in Congress, like, let's say, Ms. Rashida Tlaib.
Good, very tough, very strong. She and I don't see eye to eye. And she doesn't like me because of something we disagreed with 20 years ago. But she's a great voice, and only because of who she is.
Mr. Ray, my question is, a lot of time, your radio through Ms. Layla Al-Husseini Arab show, and, I see a lot of invitation go to Congresswoman, Ms. Rashida Tlaib, but I never see her coming to Mr. Ray Hanania or Ms. Layla
She's probably not going to come on my show. That's part of our problem in our community. We look at the Palestine conflict and take it personal. We think it's about us. So we get angry about us, what somebody says to me or what somebody says to you, instead of saying we need to set that us aside and address Palestine, which is the bigger issue, because those people who are being murdered by the IDF, the Israeli Defense Forces, and it's a terrible name because it's an oxymoron. It's just not true. They're trying to survive, and they need our help to survive. But we're here in this country beating up on ourselves, making it about us, making it about, all our people, and pretending like we're the focus, and we're not the focus. We should be doing a lot more. We haven't done anything, to be honest with you. And raising money is not anything. Anybody can raise money and you can throw money at every problem, but money isn't enough. You have to really do the right thing. And our community doesn't do it. It's embarrassing sometimes to see these organizations and these presidents for life and these leaders, they create an organization to boost themselves and make themselves more important and rise up above the problem. But Jerry, I got to tell you, it's depressing. I had an editor at the Sun-Times who told me once that if I were Jewish, I'd be one of the greatest columnists in the U.S. But because I'm Palestinian, I come from a community that is self-hating, that is disorganized, that won't support anybody in their own community, and driven by rivalries and jealousy. And it's a shame. And that we have to fight that, and it's hard to do that.
I agree with you 100%, Mr. Ray. If you were a Jewish journalist, you will be on the top list, like CNN or Fox News on that. But Mr. Ray Hanania, background, he's a Palestinian, and some people, they look at you like, who is Hanania?
As soon as they find out I'm Palestinian, when I was at the Sun-Times, they were like in shock. They wanted to know how it was that they hired me. They thought I was Puerto Rican or Italian. The name Hanania, they don't know anything about history in Jerusalem. It's a Hebrew word. And Jews who converted to Christianity, in our case, they thought I was Italian.
Your last name was Gold.
It might have been different. I got to let you go, Jerry, because I got to take a break. I always appreciate your calls.
What is your message to the Arab American youth? What's your message to them?
The message is don't follow and emulate your adults. Be smart, step back, and don't be jealous. Work with everybody, whether you like them or not, in the community, and make the goal the goal as the priority, not the personalities or yourself as a priority. Come up with a good goal and make it happen. Thanks so much, Jerry. I
want to thank you, Mr. Ray Hanania, for your time taking my call. God bless you.
All right, Jerry.
Mr. Layla Al-Husseini, and to your director, Mr. Mike Shipka. Thank you, Mr. Ray. Happy New Year.
All right. Thanks, buddy. Happy New Year. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back right after these messages.
ArabNews.com, bringing you breaking news from across the Middle East and the latest on Arabs in America. Get inside the latest headlines with expert analysis and insights at ArabNews.com. Join over 5 million Facebook fans and over 10 million monthly readers. ArabNews.com, news that matters to you.
With more than 30,000 successful in vitro fertilizations, IVF Michigan is now ranked as one of America's best fertility clinics according to Newsweek magazine. IVF Michigan fertility centers are the recognized leaders in high-quality fertility care. With locations in Bloomfield Hills and 9 other cities in Michigan and Ohio, IVF has experts in all aspects of the field. A founding member, American board-certified Dr. Nicholas Shama, is one of the leading reproductive endocrinologists in Michigan and Ohio. He has performed over 20,000 successful IVF cases, and it's helped thousands of couples fulfill their dreams of parenthood. When it's time to get personalized care from Dr. Nicholas Shama at one of America's best fertility clinics, call IVF Michigan Fertility Centers in Michigan and Ohio toll-free at 855-952-9600. 855-952-9600.
Are you going to start a restaurant or a grocery store soon? Do you need floor plans and designs? Call Najee Abood at 734-744-9796. Do you want to buy kitchen and restaurant equipment at discount prices? Call Najee Abood now, 734-744-9796. New Concept Products and Design, the trademark of kitchen equipment. 5% discount on all purchases of $75,000 or more. New Concept Products and Design, new location, 31185 Schoolcraft in Livonia. Learn more at www.newconceptproducts.com. Call Najee Abood, 734-744-9796.
Ziyad brand. Quality products from our family to yours. Ziyad Brothers Importing offers the finest quality products, including brands like Sultan, Kraft, Nestle, Hook, Rico Picon, Donna, and many more. Ask your retailer to carry these fine products because you deserve the very best. For more information, visit our website at www.ziyad.com. That's www.ziyad.com. Ziyad, quality products from our family to yours.
And welcome back. It's Ray Hanania. We only got about 7 minutes left, and I think we have Ahmed on the line at 248-557-3300. Ahmed, thank you for calling and listening. We appreciate it.
Yeah, just I have two quick questions for you.
Sure.
Under a few months ago, you mentioned every time when you're talking, and the radio you mentioned North Africa. Who's North Africa?
North Africa? Listen, I don't even reference North Africa. Those terms are actually colonialist borders. And the way I look at the Arab world, it's much bigger than the borders that they try to describe for us. And it would be in North Africa as defined by the colonialists, and the Middle East and the Levant as described and divided and diced and sliced by the colonialists. I look at it differently. I don't accept the colonialist definition of who you are or who I am and what our culture is. Okay. And that's one reason why I don't support MENA, Middle East and North Africa. I think that's a joke, in the census, to undermine Arab empowerment. It should be Arab. They should have the word Arab on the census. But Americans in this government hate Arabs so much. And I'm telling you, they hate the Chaldeans as much as they hate Arabs because they can't tell the difference between Chaldeans and Arabs. And we're all treated the same. That goes for the Assyrians, too. We're all treated the same. They hate us. And they're going to do everything they can to stop us. Ahmed, thank you so much for calling. So, listen, I just want to say thank you to everybody. I love doing the show. I appreciate all those people who followed me when we were at Arab News doing our seasonal program, the Ray Hanania radio show, every week on Thursday. I think we did something like 20 weeks. It was just phenomenal. The audience was great. The ratings were phenomenal. And we will be back later this year. We do a half a year, basically, seasonal for Arab News, and the Arab News is at arabnews.com if you want to read the stories there. Also, I want to tell you before I say goodbye to everybody that, listen, we have to support each other. And the one thing I'm asking you is go to my website at hanania.com, HANANIA.com, hanania.com. I post all my columns there. Everything that I write is posted there. And when I write for another paper like Arab News, it's posted on the notes section. So you can get a summary of what my latest column is, and a link so you can read it. I just wrote about Jimmy Carter, who was the last great moral president. He was phenomenal. We have not had a good president since he served in the 1970s, from 19, I think it was 76 to 79. Um, we every president since then has been horrible. The Clintons, even Obama, he started out good. He was a good friend of the Arab community, but as soon as he saw his career being jeopardized by being friends of the Arab community, he kind of threw us away. He still pretends like he cares about us, but he doesn't. And all of them, none of them care about us. But Jimmy Carter did. He not have been the greatest president, but he had the moral fortitude to do what was right. He had a faith, and it wasn't like a faith in a supremacist way, like, he's a Christian and Christians are the only good people. He was a true Christian because he believed in humanity for everybody, Jews, Muslims, all the other religions, and all the people, even those that didn't believe in God. He still had a belief that they needed to be helped. In the column, I talk about how I met him, how I interviewed him back in 1979 when I was the Chicago City Hall reporter. So I would urge you to go to hanania.com, read the column, and support the community. The reason we don't have a voice is because we have a good business community. We have a lot of doctors, a lot of engineers. We have very few journalists. We have some, but we don't support the journalists enough. So I'm asking you to support me at hanania.com. It's free. You just go sign up, and you can read all these columns. And I want to hear your feedback on those columns. I want to hear that. I want you to read what I write at Arab News, at arabnews.com, but you could get the link from this website. It's the hub for everything I do at hanania.com. I did something about Bernie Madoff. I did something about this crazy assessor in Cook County. I did something about how Americans make all these New Year's resolutions but never live up to it. I even post from my archive a column on Arabs on the Titanic, how we share the pain but not the glory. We were never even barely mentioned in the movie Titanic. And of course, I love to write about Middle Eastern Arabian food. And there's a great column that describes the making of stuffed grape leaves, which is my favorite food. And I believe that Middle Eastern food is the gateway into the hearts and minds of Americans. Anyway, I want to thank Layla Al-Husseini, Mike Chibka, Ayman Mansi for all the work that they do to make this, to produce this. And they do this every morning. I'm just here now on the second Friday of every week. Remember, go to Hanania.com, HANANIA.com, and follow me there. You have a great week. Happy New Year, everybody. And happy Orthodox Christmas, which was this past Tuesday. We will talk to you later, talk to you next month. Bye-bye, everybody.